Welcome to Storied Audio. Her name was Mandy Carver, 26, soft-spoken, sweet, and quietly convinced the universe had forgotten to include her in the grand romance everyone else seemed to be living. Every day at the formal wear store, she watched couples glide in, brides glowing, grooms grinning, families buzzing with excitement. She measured jackets, pinned hems, steamed gowns, and smiled politely while something inside her ached. She wasn't miserable, just lonely in that slow, persistent way that settles into a person when life feels like it's happening to everyone else. College had come and gone, and dating afterward felt like wandering through a desert of mismatched personalities and awkward conversations. She'd nearly given up. One quiet evening, just before closing, the doorbell chimed. Mandy looked up and froze. A man stepped inside, tall, broad-shouldered, with warm brown eyes and a smile that made her heart sprint. She knew that smile. She knew him. Chris Hale. High school crush. Untouchable. Unreachable. Unforgettable. They'd never talked much back then. He ran with the outgoing crowd. She hid behind her shyness like armor, but she remembered every hallway moment when he'd laughed with friends, every time he'd held the door open for someone, every time she'd wished she were brave enough to say hello. He didn't recognize her at first. Why would he? She'd changed, grown out her hair, learned to dress with confidence, learned to speak up, at least a little. "Hi," she said, praying her voice didn't crack. "Looking for a tuxedo?" "Yeah," he said, smiling. "My best friend's getting married." She led him to the dressing area, hands trembling as she grabbed her measuring tape. When she asked him to lift his arms, he did, and then his eyes widened. "Mandy?" She nearly dropped the tape. "Why, yes." He laughed softly.
Wow.
"It's been forever. You look great." Then, with his arms still outstretched, he added, "Since I'm already in hugging position, is it okay if I hug you?" She turned the color of a ripe tomato. He grinned. "I'm kidding. Mostly." Then, quieter, sincere, "I always wished we'd talked more in school. You seem like a good person." Somehow she finished measuring him without fainting. When he paid, he hesitated, then said, "Hey, could I get your number? I'd like to catch up." She gave it to him with shaking hands. The next few days, they texted nonstop, funny messages, old memories, little confessions about how weird adulthood was. By Friday, he asked her out. Dinner was simple, nothing fancy, just a cozy restaurant with warm lighting and mismatched chairs, but she laughed more than she had in years. Chris was charming, thoughtful, and still had that smile that made her melt. After dinner, they walked through the park, talking about everything and nothing. When he leaned in to kiss her goodnight, she didn't hesitate. She melted into him, like she'd been waiting her whole life. She told her sister the next morning. Her sister screamed, "Finally! You are becoming an old maid, and you're still young." Mandy threw a pillow at her, but she couldn't stop smiling. Falling in love happened slowly, then all at once. He brought her coffee on her lunch breaks. She helped him pick out ties for work. He told her she made him feel calm. She told him he made her feel brave. They went hiking, watched movies, cooked disastrous meals together, and kissed like teenagers rediscovering romance. He was handsome, yes, but more importantly, he was kind. He listened.
He cared.
He made her feel seen. One evening he asked, "Would you be my +1 for the wedding?" She nodded, heart fluttering. For the wedding, she wore a soft blue dress that made her eyes glow. When Chris saw her, he stopped walking entirely. "Mandy," he whispered, "you're the prettiest woman in the room." She blushed so hard, she thought she might combust. Throughout the night, he stayed close, hand on her back, fingers intertwined with hers, introducing her proudly to everyone. His friends adored her. Her family adored him. They danced, laughed, and stole kisses under twinkling lights. For the first time, Mandy didn't feel like life was happening to everyone else. She felt like she was finally in it, getting serious. Months passed. Seasons changed. Their relationship deepened. He helped her repaint her apartment. She helped him through a rough patch at work. They spent holidays together, met each other's families, and talked about the future with quiet excitement. A year later, on a crisp autumn evening, Chris took her back to the park where they'd had their first date. The leaves were gold, the air cool, the sky fading into twilight. He knelt. "Mandy Carver," he said, voice warm and steady, "I've loved you since the moment you nearly dropped that measuring tape. Will you marry me?" Her hands flew to her mouth. Tears spilled. She nodded so fast, she almost lost her balance. "Yes," she whispered. "Of course." He stood, kissed her, and held her close. She was so glad she'd taken a chance. So glad she'd overcome her shyness. So glad she'd opened the door to love instead of hiding behind fear. Because sometimes the universe isn't ignoring you. Sometimes it's waiting for you to look up and see the person walking through the door. Subscribe to the channel for more audio stories.